I've been filming and showcasing van dwellers for the past 7 years, filming full van tours of their unique spaces and interviews about their nomadic lifestyles. Time and time again, I've gotten viewers asking me the same fundamental questions, like, where do you go to the bathroom? Or where do you park? But I think underneath that is an even more fundamental question, which is van life right for me? I decided I wanted to answer that once and for all, and that's what this film is. A collection of interviews from 11 unique van dwellers from all different walks of life.
Today, I'm going to show you one way poor people can buy land with no money. Let's go. Welcome to Homestead. You have the strong desire to buy land. You really want a homestead for you and your family, but you have no money, you have bad credit or no credit, and you just feel hopeless. Well, I'm here to tell you there is a way you can do it, and I know because I did it, and now I'm mortgage free. This is the perfect time of year to get started because you're going to be using your tax return, so don't touch it. Okay, step one is you're going to scour the papers. I found when I was doing this, the little local papers just had the best deals. And what I did is, if you live in this county, obviously you're going to get the papers in your county, but cross the line into the other counties around you if this is the area, general area you want to live, and get all the papers from all the counties. And then go home and just sit there with a Sharpie and just scour the papers. And obviously what you're looking for is owner finance. You're trying to look for land for sale by owner because there's no way you can go through a bank. A bank is never going to give you a loan because you have no money for a down payment. You have bad credit or no credit. So forget it. They will not even consider you. But there's still hope in doing it this way because that's what I did. This is my personal motto that I live by. Small, small, small. Go small. You don't need as much as you think, and just in your mind, you picture this huge, big thing. Let me assure you, that is a lot of money, a lot of work, a lot of maintenance. Go small. You can squeeze things in your land and make things wonderful and save money, and you won't have to spend the rest of your life working to pay taxes and to cover all your expenses. So don't forget, go small. 2 to 3 acres is plenty of land for a homestead. So what you want is 2 to 3 acres, and once you find a good prospect, call the number. Call up the owner and ask him how much they want for the down payment. Just be friendly and honest. I find that's the best way to be. Just be direct, and if he says the down payment is too big that he's asking for, just say, I can't afford that. And, sometimes you can work out a deal and they'll lower that down payment, especially if they feel like you're nice and honest and they can work with you. And the second question you want to ask him is, how much of an interest rate do they want on the deal, the sell? And you want it between 8 and 10%. That's what I personally go for. You're not going to get a fabulous interest rate like a bank would give you because you're just not going to do that when you're owner financing. That's where they're going to make a little money. That's what's in it for them, is making a little money off the interest that, they're holding the loan for you. So between 8 and 12% to me is fair. Okay, so if everything sounded sounding good, you're getting a good feel for it, and what he says or she is agreeable to you. Get the full legal address of the property, including the county it's in. And what you're going to do with that is you are going to go on the county website and you're going to go to the property appraiser's office. You want the zoning department, and you have to look and see if that property is zoned residential, agricultural. That's a combination. Residential slash agricultural. That is what you want, or strictly agricultural. Usually strictly agricultural is on a bigger piece of property, and most likely if it's 2 to 3 acres, it's going to be residential slash agricultural, which is fine. While you're looking up the zoning, it has to have the word agricultural in there, or you're not going to be able to have a homestead. You're not going to be able to have the animals you want to raise your own food on a homestead. So that is so important. That is number one, is your zoning. So make sure you check that out for yourself. Don't take anybody's word for it, because people will just tell you what you want to hear to make the sale, or they just don't know and they'll just say whatever. But you want to see that with your own eyes from the county website. The second thing you want to look up while you're on that website is see if the property is in the 100 years flood zone. You really don't want a property that's in a 100-year flood zone, because this is the reason. It's going to be a damp, kind of wet piece of property, and if you plan on having animals, that's never a good thing. If you want your animals to be healthy and problem-free, you need dry land, high and dry. It can't be muddy, damp, swampy, buggy property. It's just going to be miserable. So if the zoning and the flood zone check out, it's all good to go. You're going to drive to the piece of property. Always call the owner and make arrangements, because you want to be able to get on the property, walk around, have a good look around, and you want to see if the property has a well. That's what I look for. That would totally be a plus. If there's a well, there's water on the property, that is awesome. If not, you can always add one. It is going to cost more money, but if it's a really, really good deal, like my property was a fabulous deal, and it had nothing on it, but it was such a good deal, I got it. But my other piece of property that I owner financed when I first got started, when I had nothing and 2 little kids and not a penny, that piece of property did have a well on it. So that was a big plus for me. A lot more properties than you think will already have a well and septic and power on them. It might be a lousy old trailer on there that's just run down and not livable anymore. It might be a property that had a trailer and they moved it. An old house that's been torn down or burned down. I mean, there's just so many different, situations that the property has the well on it already. So, look for those, because those are a little extra plus. Once you get there and you get out and you get onto the property, what you want to see, since it's a small piece of property, is a flat piece of property. You want every inch of that property to be usable, because, it is a small piece of property on purpose, very intentional. But at the same time, you want to be able to use every inch of it while you're laying out your homestead. And you will just be so happy. So that's what you're looking for. It doesn't have to be flat as a pancake, but you want it flat generally, the whole piece. That is a really good plus. And remember this is a very, very important tidbit. Not every good deal is a good deal. I know people that buy property that seems like a good deal. It's a very low price, and they're just like, wow, it's such a good deal. But in the end, it ends up being on a very steep piece of property. It's not usable. You can only use part of it. It just has issues. It's not big enough in the end. It might say it's 2 acres, but then, it's like a little tiny spot is only usable. And you're paying taxes on the whole piece. So what you want to do is make sure it's a nice, flat, usable piece of property that's high and dry. So you found your perfect piece of property. The terms are really good. The down payment's agreeable. You went and had a look at it, and it just, it's zoned right. It does or doesn't have a well. Everything looks great. Nice, flat piece. It's not in the flood zone. The next step is you have to find a title company. What the title company does is it does all the research for a fee, they do charge. It does all the research to make sure the person you're dealing with is the actual owner of that property. It also checks out and makes sure that there's no liens on that property from the past. You know, somebody owed money and there's a lien on that. They make sure it's a clean title. Don't do it the old-fashioned handshake way. You might build your homestead up and have all the improvements, and then the person's like, thanks a lot. And then you'd have to go to court and sue and all that. It would just be the biggest nightmare of your life. So just make sure you find a title company and you go through a title company when you purchase your land. Okay, so the last step is you have your title insurance, you sign the contract, and you seal the deal with your signature. And congratulations, you are now a landowner. It is so exciting, and most importantly, it's very doable. And I know because I did it twice. And if you want to learn a little more, you can buy my ebook, Becky's Guide to Buying Land. The link is in the description below.
How you doing? What's good, my G?
Hey.
It's been good for you.
My treat
AJ,
today.
Joshua
Thank you.
Graham.
But I don't think they take that here. Of course they take Discover. It's accepted at 99% of places. 99%? I didn't know.
I'm John Misbarth, and I travel across country with my building partner, tiny house expert Zach Giffen. And together, we help people build their mini dream homes. On this special episode of Tiny House Nation, Zach and I are working with a larger-than-life star who you would never expect to go tiny. Superstar musical artist Lil Jon and his family. And we know it, Zach's his #1 fan.
Did you get to meet him? You gonna meet Lil Jon?
But this is no ordinary build. Can we create the hit tiny house the whole family wants? A comfortable home that can pull double duty as a pro-level recording studio.
I want it to be comfy, cozy,
Willie
dwelling.
beat in the midst of a studio.
That's my son. When disaster struck their big house,
What's a more politically correct way to say the hit the fan?
That's when it went downhill.
the idea of Tiny took hold. But will the king of Crunk and his family really be able to make the move to tiny living?
Quiet!
You be quiet.
I'm trying to work!
I don't think this is gonna work at all.
Tiny homes are the next big thing.
Yeah!
This week is a huge week. That's because we're in Atlanta, Georgia to work with award-winning producer, artist, and entrepreneur Jonathan Smith. But you might know him by his rapper name, Lil Jon. Yeah! When music fans think of Lil Jon, there are a few things that immediately come to mind. There's the grill, the crunk cup, and the amazing energy in his music. This guy isn't
Hard Eyes is one of the best reviewed films of the year.
Wow.
A new horror icon has arrived. It's a murderously fun time at the movies.
Say you love my
And
photo.
destined to be a classic. It's twisted. Hard Eyes, now playing exclusively in theaters. Rated R.
Everybody, it's been over 3 years since we checked out Jake's farm, Cedar Springs Farm. He's going to show us today an amazing tour of his farm, everything that's grown. We're going to look in depth at his cattle, his silvopasture farm, his geese, everything working together to create this abundant farm ecosystem.
He built this from scratch.
This is our second video we're making here.
Yeah.
You know, the first video, we titled it Farmer Coming from a Desert, and I think people don't understand the concept of a desert. Like the neighbor's farm where it's sagebrush, we're going to show that is, what this farm used to look like. There was not much grass here.
And it's just all about management. That's the only difference, is how do you manage your landscape? And when you go walk just up my driveway and cross over the fence to my neighbor's place, it's sagebrush, it's some juniper pinyon, and it hasn't been grazed either. When you see some of the properties around here that have gone totally fallow, it's degrading. So people think, oh, leave nature alone, it's perfect. But the thing is, nature needs management, and if it's not the wild herds of bison that used to live here, then we have to step in and manage. And because there's nothing managing that piece of land next door, it's gone into degradation. You can tell the soil, it's really dry, it's blowing away a little more every year. This is just sagebrush, not producing any calories for humans.
See, I'm going to bring back the desert and I'm going to make it green out there. Boy.
We introduce management. All we're doing
Hey, Miss Helen. Bless, bless. What's up, big man? You guys play. No, you fine. You fine.
This is across the counter, okay? Okay, thanks.
Is that 7?
Yeah, 7. This is 7%.
Matter of fact, that covered. That covered. Thank you, dude.
commercial American jerseys. They do awesome on pasture, and they're designed to basically just eat a lot of grass and be really efficient. And they've also got exceptional cream content. Here makes at least 30% cream, and when she's in later lactation, that number just goes up. And this is Mabel. She's my old girl. I've had her since she was a baby. I guess Mabel's about 12 years old.
Isn't she internet famous?
Yeah, Mabel's pretty famous. She has kind of her own following because she's just such a good cow. And so the knapweed is still really predominant here. What's really cool about this area is that we kind of mob grazing it, and what it does is it crushes all the knapweed down. I try to graze it before it flowers.
You live in
And then
what?
It's still palatable
Don't say
to
that.
cattle. They come through, they knock it all down, they eat a bunch of it, and what happens is it's weakening the knapweed to the point where now we have this pest that is actually helping us too. The knapweed seed heads don't normally look like this. This is diseased. And so by weakening the knapweed through rotational grazing, this is full of, they're like little worms almost. I don't know if you can see them moving around, but what these little worms are doing is they're eating all the seeds. And so, in a way, by rotational grazing the knapweed heavily, we've almost convinced it to seek harmony with the rest of the plants. And what that looks like for it is it has to have a natural predator, which up until now it hasn't. At this point, almost every single knapweed plant is diseased. And it's going into recession, and what that's allowing for is grasses and clovers and alfalfas to actually start making a way in the zone. Whereas before, it was 100% knapweed. Through rotational grazing, we weakened it, it's under attack, and now the grasses and legumes can come up around it.
Wow, that's awesome. That's the way to do it, versus spraying some glyphosate or some nasty chemical.
Well, spraying chemicals is a very temporary solution. It's gonna destroy your soil biology and just allow for more weeds. Rotational grazing, it's amending the whole system. I've dragged a whole bunch of gated pipe out here, and what I'm going to start doing in the next week or two, after I finish doctoring up all these pipes, is gently flooding water with knapweed. So the allelopathogen that knapweed produces in its roots, which kills off the other plants around it, it's water soluble. So as long as there's water soaking down through the soil, that toxin is going to actually leave the soil. It's going to clean. And once that toxin has been at least somewhat removed from the soil, then the grasses and legumes can really come in. It's going to create a balance. Again, there's always going to be knapweed out here. Come to peace with that. We're not going to spray it and try to get rid of it because it will just be back in a few years. We'll see how this works. I mean, we'll check back again in a year or two and see if this actually works or not.
Some five-wheelers in the balance. I got a job to do.
Mickey 17, rated R.
Old Spice men's styling products promote healthier, more moisturized looking hair, all while helping you achieve the perfect look.
When migraine strikes, do you question the trade-offs of treating? Ubrelvy is another option. It works fast, and most have migraine pain relief within 2 hours. You can treat it anytime.
Tough loss, Coach. Any words?
They just played a much better game.
Did you say munch?
Sounds like someone...
They eat mosquito larvae and actually eat algae as well, but they kind of aerate too. They spend a lot of time in there splashing around, kicking around, eating pond plants off the bottom. You know, we see a lot of action on the ponds from geese. And they're also harvesting a lot of nutrients out of the ponds. You know, we have a lot of flow, a lot of ditch water that can flow through our ponds, and with that flow come crawdads, fish, all kinds of just particulates, stuff that might have caloric value that would just wash through the farm. And they're kind of almost like a net. They post up in the pond right where the water's coming in, and they're just foraging. They're just eating everything washing down the stream. They're hitting all the ponds every day, making their rounds, and then they like go visit the pigs. And pigs kind of make a mess when they eat. They spread some food out, and the geese like to go clean up after the pigs too.
Wow. And you started with one, right?
Yeah, we started with one goose, somewhat of a mystical goose who appeared here on her own. We really liked her. She's a Toulouse, is the variety she is. And really liked her temperament, really liked that she just was self-sufficient. And so I found somebody getting rid of a bunch of Toulouse geese. Now the one that has been here for years on her own, now she has a whole bunch of friends and a full flock to integrate into. And I'm actually really happy with them. What I like about the Toulouse geese is they're not aggressive.
Have you ever eaten one?
Nope. I figure they're worth more alive than dead. You kill a goose in a system like this, it's you're removing an integral part of the system in a way. We got plenty of beef and pork in the freezer. I'm not hurting to go pluck a goose out here. Don't get me wrong, if we had to, it's kind of like passively creating protein. I'd rather than be reproducing and foraging.
No, that's awesome. You know, you're almost treating them as a restoration tool than anything else. You know?
Exactly. I mean, meat would be a byproduct. We needed it, but the services they offer are pretty valuable. And as long as we have other meat sources, I'd rather keep them alive.
So we were here about 3 years ago, and none of these trees were over 3 feet tall.
In the past few years, these trees really exploded. Been able to, use the swale that they're planted along to convey some water to them. And this is the first year we're actually getting a crop of plums. These are Japanese plums. I don't know how good they're going to taste. Never had one. What's really awesome about these trees is they put out these big root systems by now. They put on, that thing's probably popping out at almost 20 feet tall. Maybe the Japanese plums will be great. Maybe we'll like them. Maybe we'll feed them all to the pigs.
What about your pigs?
The pigs are definitely for me. So this is a training pen. We start them off in here. It's hard fenced. It has water running through it that they can drink out of and wallow in. And they have a free feeder. It's like a nuclear bomb went off in here because it's the training pen. It's a sacrificial zone. But the benefit is while they're in here, we get them friendly, we get them tuned up on our program, get them a little bigger, and then start pasturing them out of those trees with portable electric fencing. We found that pigs in the high desert, you have to manage them properly, or else everything looks like this. That's why this is the sacrificial training pen. I don't want the whole farm to look like this. So while they're in here, we try to get them to gain weight, get them friendly, and when they go out on pasture, we're going to wring their noses, which keeps them from rooting. In the high desert, if they root up an area, you could be looking at 10 years before you see recovery. And so for us, that's not regenerative. We're not looking to degrade land. In the process of creating meat, we're looking to regenerate land, and meat is the byproduct.
How many pigs are you at this year?
This year we're raising 30. I used to raise feeders and breeding stock. We kept sows or the whole thing. I have a good friend in Paonia over at Down Home Farm. We struck a deal where all of our breeding stock went to him, all of their feeders come to us. So now we're kind of splitting the load. They used to do breeding stock and farrowing and feeders as well. And so we're both doing everything. And at some point we sat down and talked about it. And so now we have struck somewhat of a partnership where all of our breeding stock has gone to them, and we're raising feeders for them as well. So we're raising 30 this year. Half of them are going back to Down Home at the end of the season. Standing here next to like a 20-foot tall honey locust tree that I planted when it was a stick. I just love that feeling. Who could have thought? Here we are in the high desert, and it's like actually working. This is a template. This is an example of just how we can work within almost any ecosystem with proper water management, integrating agroforestry, integrating livestock. Those are the 3 big things. But it's really, in my experience, to find people who integrate all 3 into one system. And that's what I like about working with RAD, Restoration Agriculture Development, Mark Shepard's company, and learning from them. We really utilize all 3 of those and integrate them together. It's all there, and it all plays off of each other, and it creates a whole system, which will outlive us. This is a high tunnel. We put up the high tunnel a few years ago. One of the things about this environment is the weather can be unpredictable. We can get late frosts, early frosts. We can get a lot of different kind of variables in the high desert for growing. So for example, if we want to grow things like peppers, what we found is growing them in this hoop house, it's how we get a big pepper crop. When we used to grow them in the garden, unprotected, we'd get some peppers here and there, and some years we wouldn't get any. In here, we have a great pepper crop every year. Same with tomatoes. We always get a good crop of tomatoes in the garden, but in here, we get like a bumper crop every year. The tomato plants get huge, they get loaded, and something too about the filtered light, the way that the plastic filters the UV, everything in here just seems to do really well. We feel it's really important to provide for our family what our needs are in our own garden. Just like we raise our own beef, we raise our own pork, we're planting fruit trees and nut trees. It's also really important to designate a certain amount of our efforts every year into growing the annual crops that give us the calories we need. For example, cabbage is a big one for us. My wife Megan makes a lot of sauerkraut, and it stores all winter. So all winter we'll eat pork chops, big heaping.
You can grow anything in the high desert.
What we need from the garden all winter long. Same with tomatoes. We grow mostly canners, can them and freeze them, and use them all winter for tomato sauce, soup, you name it. I grow some corn in here.
He got corn.
This year is a blue corn from seed I brought back from a trip. I went to Oaxaca. I met this old farmer named Raphael. He was a really cool guy. I met him on a street corner. He's grown blue corn there forever. I was chatting him up, and he gave me some really beautiful blue corn seed. And so that's what we're growing here. Then in the back of the booth, we're doing my tree beds. We source almost all of our trees. Tag. Right now back there we have a crop of honey locust trees, a bed of Nanking cherry trees, chestnuts, and I think that's all I'm doing for them this year. But kind of nice and protected environment with these raised beds. This bed here is all seedling hybrid chestnut, so it's an American Chinese hybrid. All the seed came from New Forest Farm, Mark Shepard's farm in Wisconsin, and we're growing this out for them to plant out on installs for 2024. You know, people say you can't grow chestnuts in Colorado. The soil's too alkaline and it's too dry here. And what I've found out is that it's really good when you hear a phrase like that gets repeated often, to take it as a sign that there's some learning to do there. What I learned from that is, instead of just regurgitating information, I took on a new approach, which was, I'm gonna try killing 1,000 chestnuts a year, planting them out on my system, and just see if any of them make it. You know, not with the approach that these need to survive, more with the approach, if any of these survive, it's a win. What it's led us to is the fact that there are genetic variations of these hybrid chestnuts that will grow here. We have them leafing out in pastures, we have them leafing out on our system, we have them leafing out around the garden, and they're growing. I even found some mature chestnuts in the North Fork Valley here, like mature trees that somebody planted probably 30, 40 years ago. What it comes down to is that you can grow chestnuts in Colorado, you just have to plant a lot of them. It's not that chestnuts won't grow in Colorado, it's that most chestnuts aren't going to like it here. Occasionally there's going to be a phenotype or a genetic variation of the chestnut tree that is tolerant of alkaline soil. And when you find those specimens, let them grow out, let them pollinate each other and reproduce, collect seed off of those specimens, grow out those ones, and then after 10, 20 years of doing this religiously, we're...
So many options.
Understood, guys. We're asking Oracle to check the data.
Single, double, let's keep our cool.
Stick with the plan.
Can you live totally debt-free, independently, off-grid? Well, we are celebrating 4 years of living off-grid, and we are going to go into all of the lessons and learnings and experiences we've had over these last 4 years living out here in the Sonoran Desert. For those of you who are new to our channel, we are the Terraform Homestead, and we are a off-grid homestead out in the Sonoran Desert, one of the harshest environments you could possibly homestead in. And we've been living here for 4 years now. We are celebrating our 4-year anniversary. I am so excited about that, and wanted to take you guys through our journey and what we have learned living off-grid in the last 4 years. We bought this land, 24 acres, completely abandoned, not a road to get here, in January of 2020. As everybody knows, March of 2020 is when the COVID pandemic really took off. And so for the first 2 years of living out here, we were going through the pandemic and not only
trying to survive in the real world, but also trying to survive out on our abandoned desert land. We started with no water, no electricity, no shelter, no anything, not even a road to get into our property, and have been building it up over the last 4 years. I'm happy to say, after 4 years, we are finally out of survival mode and able to really enjoy this property for what it is and enjoy the debt-free lifestyle of living off-grid, building your own home, and get to enjoy life and our hobbies and our pursuits and build a community, which is really amazing. Year 4, it's crazy to think about that. One of the big focuses this year was water security and water stability. We have the privilege to be able to rebuild some of this land this year, and we ended up putting in over 600 feet of berm and swale that will capture around 20,000 gallons of water per inch of rain we get. That is an incredible amount of water and something that is going to affect this land for the rest of time to be able to rebuild some of this desert ecosystem that has been destroyed over the years from neglect and overfarming and cattle ranching and things of that nature. So I'm very grateful to have been able to be a part of rebuilding some of the permaculture and some of the ecosystem out here in our desert home. We live totally on rainwater out here or hauled water. Up to this point, we have had to haul most of our water in here, which is very expensive. And so this year, the big push was to get water security. I'm excited to say we have added over 1,200 gallons of water tanks that are currently functioning. And we started the build of our 6,500 gallon earth bag cistern that will basically give us water security. Once our earth bag cistern is done, we will have over 13,000 gallons of water tank storage capacity out on this land. Even with 5 or 6 people out here, we are living off of 1,000 gallons a month or less. So our 13,000 gallon capacity should tide us over until our next monsoon season, which is really exciting and will really cut down significantly on the minimal bills that we have out here because we won't have to be trucking in water anymore, which is really, really exciting. Additionally, with this new cistern, we are able to fully capture the water that is coming off of our roofs. We were able to add enough roof space that we are getting around 1,000 gallons of water captured per inch of rain. So out here in the Sonoran Desert, it is the desert, but we still get 13 to 15 inches a year. So 13 to 15,000 gallons of water coming down and being collected, 13,000+ gallons of tanks. In theory, we're good. We should be able to survive very comfortably off of rainwater only in this next year. In addition to our potable water tanks, we added a 1,500 gallon seep tank. This is a tank that is buried. It was a cracked septic tank that was not used, fortunately, that we put underground and are basically able to fill that when we get our rains in our berm and swale. That will hold 1,500 gallons that we can use for construction or things like that, and it will slowly seep into the ground, so we're able to plant more permaculture sort of things out in our desert home and hopefully make this fully food sustaining at some point in life. Power security was another big deal for us this year. So we have been running off of 2,800 watts of solar. Last year we upgraded our inverter and our batteries to have about 9,600 watt capacity. This is a very small system for running the entire homestead, but battery and solar are very expensive. So one thing we added this year was a generator, which is super nice to have. We are in the Arizona desert, so we get 370 days of sun a year, but for those 10 days of sun that we don't get, we do have to kind of struggle a little bit. We found a generator on sale through Amazon's Black Friday deals that was just crazy good and purchased it. So now we have backup power just in case. The bonus to that is now we...
How do I start a savings habit?
How to start shaving a rabbit. If you want a simpler way to build a habit, a BMO savings account can help. You get a cash reward every month you save.
This year's top prize goes to BMO.
I'm just in it for the saving, but it's nice to be recognized.
The Cuisinart air fryer toaster oven is your canvas of self-expression. It heats evenly and is much faster than the oven, because you shouldn't have to wait to enjoy enjoy whatever this is.
Perfect.
A work of Cuisinart.
We can weld in this house that I'm sitting in right now, our little hyper adobe house, and be able to weld and do off-grid projects totally anywhere independent of our solar system, which is a huge deal. With the addition of this generator and our solar setup, we were able to get air conditioning, which, oh, it's such a luxury. Being out here in the summer for 3 summers, not having air conditioning when it's regularly over 105 was absolutely miserable. So I'm so happy to be able to say I have air conditioning, and that just basically makes my days more productive because I can work during the day instead of being miserable and hot all the time. 2 huge steps forward with the comfort and getting out of survival mode on our off-grid homestead. Getting into what we have accomplished this year, it has been a big year for building out here. We put the roof on our little hyper adobe 280 square foot earthbag home that I am sitting in right now, and was able to add that roof to our rainwater storage tanks and basically get this building sealed in. It is far from finished, but it's at least at a place where it is dried in, safe, comfortable, and we can work on it as we see fit. This was a huge push to get not only our roof on, but our interior plaster started, our floor started. The other big push we did this year was our little tiny home. This is a 54 square foot home that I lived in for a year and a half, traveling all over the country, and it eventually broke. But it made it 15,000 miles around the country through some pretty rough roads. And the steel broke, not my weld. So that was at least a positive. We took it here and a couple years ago cut the axles off, cut the tongue off, and started cobbing it. I'm happy to say we have finally finished that project. We replaced the roof because the mice chewed a hole through our roof, which we found out this summer, and have that as a comfortable dwelling. In addition, we built a beautiful outdoor kitchen out of scrap materials. We had our bamboo shade structure from the last year, and this is just a beautiful little cozy den that I am excited to hopefully be renting to another artist or entrepreneur or somebody that just needs a little bit of a hand up in 2024. When I talk to people who are interested in homesteading and ask what it is like, I usually tell people that you can expect to be in survival mode for about 3 years. And that was very true for us. Going into this 4th year, I feel like I finally have my feet under me, and we are able to pursue more creative pursuits, more educational stuff through our nonprofit, and provide basically a place for people to learn and play and experiment with new medias and new art forms and just kind of express themselves. So some of the highlights this year, I feel like for me personally, was being able to dive into my art and actually start making a little bit of income off of that. The biggest project of the year was the Cochise County College Pit Fire Festival. That was such a fun project. That is a festival that the college puts on every year where they hire a sculpture artist to build something out of pallets, and it gets burnt up at the end of the year. So me being a metalworking artist and somebody who uses pallets, I was chosen for it. I feel like it was a natural fit, and I'm so grateful to work with those students for 3 weeks to build this amazing sculpture that we ended up lighting on fire, and it was so cool. The fun part about living out here is we can pretty much do whatever we want, and with that, I love experimenting with different media and learning different skills. I'm so excited that we got our forge set up so we can do metalworking and blacksmithing out here. We were donated an anvil and we bought a little forge. We also set up a little smelting pot kind of thing, so now we can do some castings. We've done raku pottery out here. We've done all kinds of different creative pursuits, and I'm super excited for 2024 to expand my creative endeavors, including 3D printing. Got our 3D printer set up, which has been game changer because we're able to just make whatever we want. We don't have to go to the store anymore and pay crazy Home Depot prices for bits and bobs and pieces on our builds. It's game changing out here. All the different tools and medias that we are able to work with. I'm excited that we set up a small pottery studio out here, and so we currently have 3 people on the property that are doing ceramics and expressing themselves through clay I find very therapeutic and wonderful, and hopefully in 2024 we will be building our own wood and gas fired kiln out here to be able to do pottery off the grid like people did for most of human history. So that has been so much fun. Living off grid, having the financial freedom and time freedom to pursue more creative endeavors and be able to share that with other people.
This President's Day, feel the freedom to style your space with modular sections starting at $699.98 now at Ashley. Plus, pay over time with 0% interest for 60 months. Shop in-store or online. Only at Ashley.
Going into 2024, I am excited from the lessons that I have learned living off-grid. I think one of the big things is just to be flexible with what you're doing and how you're doing it, and be adaptive. Our plants have changed so many times out here, and not little changes like, oh, we're gonna, change the decor. It's like what we're building out here and what our priorities are. Originally, we started building a 1,200 square foot home, and then after realizing how much work this 280 square foot earth bag home is, decided to kind of abandon that project, which is a little tough after you've started it, but readjusting priorities and realizing that you don't need as big of a space because it's not important to me. I'm very comfortable in my 250 square foot tiny house. I will be even more comfortable in our 280 square foot earth bag home, and very content with life. The other thing I realized this year is to really prioritize what is important. That is why we shifted from this Hyper Adobe tiny house build to our earth bag cistern build, because I realized a second home was not as important as water security. It sounds like a dumb thing and an obvious thing, but when you're so deep into it and just like working so hard and not really thinking through things, you kind of get lost in just the busyness of any given day. So this year has been really great for me to kind of slow down a little bit and reprocess and
The Super Bowl finna come on.
on wheels and need a place to build and tools and some consulting work, that opportunity will be that mounted properly, because it has been janky for like 3 years now and not totally set up right considering it's on pallets. So I'd love to get that in and secured and totally finished and done nice and properly. The nice thing about being 4 years in now is we can take some more time to do things right instead of being rushed and in survival mode. I am also super excited to bring y'all more content on our earth bag tiny home build. We're going to be doing some really cool woodworking, some really cool metalworking in here, and just making this such a unique tiny house structure for next to no money that hundreds and hundreds of years. So hopefully we'll be able to be living in this home in the next year, and that will be a big accomplishment out here, because this will be our first home structure totally built from scratch, from earth, on this property. For those of you who have been following our channel for the last couple years and following our adventures out here on the Terra Farm Homestead, I want to thank you guys so much for the support and for the comments. And
I want to build some earth homes. Those look cool. Build some earth homes.
It's crazy to think that we've hosted 300 people have lived on this property in the last 4 years. For everybody who has continued to support us and watch our content, leave comments, things like that, thank you guys so much. I do read every comment. I respond to every comment. I want to give you guys the information that you want so that hopefully y'all can start your own self-sufficient lifestyle out wherever that is in the world, whatever that looks like for you. I think homeownership and living simply, living sustainably is the only way that people can go forward. So we will be bringing out content every single week, educational stuff, build stuff, all kinds of interesting off-grid, weird, fun, artistic projects, and hopefully help you on your off-grid homesteading journey. Check out our current earth bag cistern build. I've got that video queued up for you right now, along with some other additional content that I think you will enjoy. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for 4 years. Here is to another year living self-sufficiently off-grid. Y'all enjoy the new year and go build something cool.
2014 to 2021 was a difficult period for the team. We slipped out of that.
Over 3 years ago, we purchased this abandoned cabin for 50,000 Canadian dollars. And since then, we've transformed it into our forest oasis. This is how we did it. Let's start from the very beginning. We bought some trees! Oh my gosh. This is insane. This place needs a lot of work.
Good thing we've got 2 gals that are ready for it.
After moving all our belongings from the van into the cabin, it's time to get to work, starting with clearing the yard. That was the most fun I've had in so long, eh? It's so beautiful. Check it out. A clear yard means van and truck access to the cabin, and we can clear out all the furniture left behind. Saying this cabin needed a lot of work would be an understatement, but despite its appearance, we could see the potential. be honest, who doesn't love a demolition part of a project? Living in a cabin was a welcome change. After living in a small van, this much felt like a luxury. The driveway turns to mud.
Can you hear it?
I can hear it.
We have been waiting for this day. Feels like forever.
Forever. Since we first got here, this is our first priority. It takes time.
Finally here.
It's finally here.
Finally here.
After a quick lesson, we are official excavator operators, prepping the land for what's to come.
Just a couple of matches. Good times, the best.
Damn! Kim Possible!
Anything's possible with that thing.
Holy, look what you just did.
With the driveway now level and free of any big rocks, we roll out an underlayment and get ready for gravel.
Larry!
It's gravitation when I see ya. It's like a bone to a golden retriever. Adds up to an easy equation. Me plus you go good together. You and I go good together. You and I, we go good together.
And after many days of hard work, we were able to turn this once mud pit into a beautiful driveway that will stand the test of time. It was one of our biggest milestones. Excavating the driveway has allowed for another project. With the rocks dug up from cleaning up the land, we were able to repurpose them for landscaping a garden. Every single rock that gets dropped makes me so happy.
How good does this look?
Cross any mountain, what's out of reach? Sail every ocean, you deliver me.
All the land clear and level, we were able to tack a third and fourth project, a parking pad for vehicles and leveling soil for our new yard. So with more underlayment down, we got to work.
You're gonna see the last little fill.
Me too. I can't believe it.
Look at this, it's transformed.
The machine is a beast. We are absolutely loving it. Renting this machine is probably one of the best decisions we ever made.
100%.
Next up, it's time to level and spread topsoil, the last step before transforming this once overgrown area into a luscious lawn for us to enjoy.
Whoever rakes topsoil for a living, hats off to you. It's looking mighty fine though. We're laying some sod at night. Can you go up? Rita! Oh, that's my girl!
It's hard to believe just how much this place has changed in the short weeks since arriving. We now have a driveway, a parking pad, a beautiful lawn, but this is only the beginning. As the cold weather approached in the weeks that followed, we needed to prepare ourselves. And that started with building a temporary woodshed to store enough wood for the season.
Stay for a moment, for the pain, for a while. You tell me what you want to. Stay here or for a while.
One thing about living off-grid is its unique challenges with basic amenities. We have had to drive an hour to a freshwater spring to bring in drinking water. But this was about to change as we opted out for a long-term solution with a drilled well.
Sure doesn't look like much.
We hit water. We have a well at 240 feet. So happy. It doesn't feel real.
I know.
You can't really see it.
Well. Get it? We have a well. Actually, we do that.
Yay. Speaking of amenities, our next step was to build ourselves a place to do our business. An outhouse for number 2 will do.
I get a little too excited. When I drink that juice, I got my eyes piled in a big old heap. Sometimes I get worked up by the modern drink. Sometimes I howl at the moon like a mangy beast. And it's cool, that's not your thing.
With the structure of the outhouse completed before winter, this project will have to wait for now. This roof is insanely bad. Like, it's on its very, very, very last legs, shingles. Like, Jasmine just stepped and this just peeled right off the roof, like hardly any pressure, and just rolled down. Like, it really needs a new roof. And we're doing it.
Time I got just the right thing. It's the goodness that makes it dance and sing.
These end pieces, they are time consuming. Because you gotta measure, and then like, I don't really measure that great. Crystal's not really measure. So then she cuts it 5 million times, and then it finally works. Thanks for being so cooperative. Yeah.
May not look like it, but as we tried our best to keep our speed and our energy up, this was one of the most challenging things we've ever done.
Guess what?
What?
We're still on the roof! And we also lost all of our positive attitudes today. I will never roof again in my life.
Turns out, roofing is really hard, but we did everything we could to press on. And after a few weeks of difficult work, we successfully installed a brand new metal roof that will protect the cabin for years to come.
Good work. Good job. We finished the roof, everyone. And the roof finished us.
Winter came quick, and we really weren't